Welcome to Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football. My name is Wes, and I'd like to invite you to join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news from around the league, the big games this weekend, and more. And what's up, everybody? It's Wes. Thanks for joining us. Maybe you're getting a little reprieve from election madness. And we enjoy being able to be that for you. You know, if you want to just relax and get away from that, you give us a listen. If you guys were watching video, you just got to see a great sight of Darth Vader, inspired by some events that occurred recently. So we'll talk about that as well as a lot of other things. But joining me as always, what's going on, Jesse?
You know, guys, it's a big week for everybody. But just remember, we had college football first, and we're gonna hold on to that. So let's just keep that in our hearts, guys.
That's right. Matt, what is going on, my friend?
I am all here for the madness, baby. Woo! Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling fine. The world's on fire, but everything's okay.
That's right. At least we have SEC football to talk about, right?
Thank God for that.
And this weekend,
it's fine. Everything's fine.
That's right.
That's the mantra for the next couple of months. Just it's fine. Everything's fine. Wrap it up 2020.
And never fear, we have Pac-12 football coming back as
God.
well.
I saw a commercial. They were like, "What we've been waiting for," and it was all of them. And I was just like, "No."
Yeah,
no,
all 6
don't.
Oregon fans know what they've been waiting for.
Well, they were talking about some of these teams coming into an empty stadium, and the podcast I was listening to was had Pollock on it, and he said, "Well, aren't those Pac-12 teams used to that coming into an empty stadium?"
See, wait. You bookmark that. We're gonna come back and talk about David.
Yeah, I'm
Pollock
like, okay, keep it.
Because I mean, in that instance, he's not wrong, because some of them, they're pretty empty. The stadiums are so. But anyway, like you said, we'll get to that. But yeah, let's go ahead. And yeah, that's right. So let's go ahead and talk about those games from last week.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
All right. So first we had number 5 Georgia at Kentucky. Georgia won this one an astounding 14-3, which I think we all expected. I did get the point in that one because I guess I had the least differential or whatever. You guys thought they were going to kill them, I guess. But
they should have.
They should have, yeah. So interesting stats all around in this game, though, because Zamir White, he had a career high in yards. He had 136 on 26 carries and a touchdown. But overall, offense pretty anemic. I mean, you look at Stetson Bennett's stats: 9 of 13, 131 yards and 2 picks. Again, one of them was a tip ball, so not necessarily his fault. But they're not able to get much going. However, there were only 8 possessions for each team in this game. So both of them were just kind of rolling along. And when we first started watching the game, I was like, well, okay, fine. Georgia's doing what they need to do. They're controlling the pace and the tempo of the game. And then Kentucky turned around not long after that and started doing the same thing. And I'm like, hold up, wait a second. This isn't supposed to be going on. Now we did kind of have the bend but don't break. Obviously they only got 3 points. But there for a while, it was looking like they were able to just kind of do what they wanted, especially in the run game. Joey Gatewood started this game for Kentucky. He only had 91 yards passing on 15 of 25. But Rodriguez, their running back, he had 108 yards on 20 carries. So like I said, they're running the ball pretty well. One of the biggest stories in this is the costliness of this victory, as Georgia had 4 defensive starters who exited the game: Jordan Davis, Julian Rochester, Lewis Kine, and Quay Walker. Now, as far as their status goes, Rochester's been ruled out, and we'll just kind of have to see on Davis if he can play. But it looks like Kine and Walker, and also Monty Rice, in addition to those, they're banged up, but it looks like they will play. Not really sure how much. We'll see. And we'll just see how much playing time they get. But on top of that, once they got back to Athens, Georgia safety Richard LeCount involved in a traffic accident. That's huge news. He was riding a dirt bike when it struck a vehicle that was attempting to make a left turn, the Athens Clarke County Police Department said in a statement Sunday. After hitting the vehicle, his dirt bike went into oncoming traffic and struck another car, according to the statement. So his mother, Erica, she said he's lucky to be alive. He was wearing a helmet, and that saved his life. So I'm not really sure what his injuries were, but he was his injuries were non-life-threatening. Thankfully, and they say a full recovery is expected. Ron Corson, the school's director of sports medicine, said. He was actually released from the hospital today, so that's great news. And he's going to be doing his rehab in the football facility. So
dirt bikes are not street legal.
Yeah, they're not.
Stop riding them on streets, number one. Like, thank God he had a helmet on. Stop
Right.
riding them on streets. And after you get back from a game, shouldn't you be tired? Shouldn't you want to just like go chill out?
Yeah.
You get back on a Saturday night, they need to still be told to chill. Because why were you on a dirt bike? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't.
Kids.
Yeah.
These are questions I have. Like, why? I mean, thank God he's okay, but like, let's learn a lesson, gentlemen, and let's.
Also, it was after dark.
Doing traffic things.
So not only was it, not supposed to be on the street, but he's, being after dark on a vehicle that, I guess doesn't have any lights on it. It'd be difficult to see for the bike. And it's just not a good thing to be doing. So
after a football game, go home, turn on some Netflix, order a pizza if you must.
But
light a candle.
These kids though, they don't run out of energy. So apparently a game wasn't enough to get him tired. So thank goodness he's okay. So
yes, praise God. I mean, come on. It seems like a game where, he should have been moving a lot and in a lot of coverage, but I guess not. So Georgia coaches, maybe run him a little bit. Maybe have a practice after those games if the guys still have some energy.
Make him run stairs.
Yeah, make him run stadium stairs. That'll be a fun Saturday night. This game though, weird. Well, weird here. I think as you guys could see from like mine and Matt's guess on the score, see this one coming. Georgia was the one that, Georgia did disprove us. If you have more turnovers in the game, you usually lose. That wasn't the case for them. But they didn't win by as much of a deficit as I thought they would have. It's going to be hard for Stetson Bennett, man. If you're a short quarterback, and he's 5'11", I'm saying that at 5'5", but if you're a short quarterback, teams are going to they're going to tip you. I mean, it's going to happen every time. Bama did it. Kentucky obviously watched and said, okay, it's a good thing. We'll start practicing those tipping drills. So, I mean, I think Stetson Bennett's going to see a lot of this, and Georgia's run game is just going to have to pick up that slack.
Agreed. I think they're also going to have to design a lot of rollouts for him to get him outside of that line, so he can make throws around people instead of over people. So, Matt, what do you think about this game and just kind of everything going on with this situation?
We were expecting a nuke here, and we definitely didn't get it. I remember I was looking at the score when this was going on, and I was like, wow, Georgia only put up 14 points. And in Kentucky's defense, their defense has been pretty sound this year.
True.
But man, that looks that anemic's a good word for it, because that's exactly what you're looking at. My question is, did Pickens and McIntosh not playing have that big of an effect on it? Do you think that probably played a part, Wes?
Oh, I'm sure.
I know Pickens, yes, because he's a favorite target.
Not to jump in on your spot, but one thing on the offense also is that when you're able to run the ball the way that we did, I mean, in some respects, I think it wasn't necessary to throw the ball. So I'm not defending that and saying that the offense was, way better than it actually was.
Right.
But I think that's one reason why you saw a run heavy. Like, I think one drive, I don't even know if we threw the ball. It was just all running plays. So yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
Well, I was just saying, I'm hearing a lot of rumblings from the people that I work with, because most of them are Georgia fans. I'm also seeing stuff on Twitter and everywhere else that, they think Stetson Bennett's not the guy. But if you're a Georgia fan, you're listening
about Twitter.
Exactly. It's one of those rant things again, and I'm not going to start. I told myself today I was going to be calm. I yelled at Ball Twitter last week. I'm not going to yell at anybody this week.
I think you're our Twitter correspondent. I really like
it. Yeah, that's me. I just let the boys play. I don't. The minute somebody struggles, they're like, "All right, we got to get them gone. We got to get somebody different."
Oh yeah, what have you done for me lately?
Coach.
I mean, yeah, like they want to fire the head coach, they want to fire the offense coordinator, they want to fire the defense coordinator, they want to fire a defensive line coach right in the middle of a football game. Oh wait, that happened. It's mind numbing how quick people are to break it and move on. Like I just don't understand that mentality.
Oh yeah, and like I said,
they've never coached before. I haven't either, but I like to think
these people are experts.
And I can tell you again, and I feel like I'm saying this every week, whether it's here on Facebook, on Twitter, we don't see these guys in practice. We don't see the work they're putting in the film room. We don't see that stuff. So when we start calling for, quarterbacks' heads and we start saying that kid needs to start over this kid, we don't have the foggiest clue what it looks like in practice.
Right. And I don't know if you guys saw my Facebook post. I think it was on Saturday, but just talking about how these coaches, I mean, they're under such a microscope nowadays, especially, and he's not going to intentionally be holding back talent when he's got somebody on the bench who can get the job done better. He's just not. I mean, you're not going to take that chance.
Not many jobs that are there that your performance is judged solely on other people's performances.
Mm-hmm.
He can coach them all day long, do whatever he needs to do, call plays, whatever. It's up to execute. And so coaches are held accountable for everything that other people do. I mean, yeah, their own acts as well, but that's tough. I mean, like last week, they're trying to get 18, 19-year-old kids in order and executing at a professional level, essentially. That's tough to do.
Yeah, they're not going to be holding back. So, all right, so let's go ahead and skip ahead to the next game. That was LSU at Auburn. Auburn winning this one 48-11. And gosh, speaking of, none of us saw this coming. I think my words for the last week's episode were, "This is going to be a good game. It's going to be so close." And Matt wants me to tell everybody that he's the one who got the point because he's the only one to pick Auburn. So he had the most faith of Auburn. So.
It was coming.
That wasn't faith. That was just an assumption of what I assumed was going to happen.
And I think your attempt to break out from the pack, right?
Yes, and this week it worked. So
it did.
There you go.
Matt made up quite a lot of ground this week. So as you'll see later on, but yeah, Auburn's offense, gosh, it's like they could do no wrong. LSU defense could do no right. And
I was gonna say, is it all them doing no wrong, or LSU not doing anything right?
It's so sad. I mean, this team that is just traditionally known for tough defenses is just, I don't know, just crumbling before their opponents. On the offensive side of the ball, LSU started Finley at quarterback as we had seen the week prior. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but LSU's started at the beginning of the season. Oh gosh, what is his name? I'm having starts with a B. Oh gosh.
At quarterback.
At quarterback for LSU, yeah. He's he's injured now, and that's why he's not starting. Let's see. And all the LSU fans, if they're Miles Brennan, I was going to say all the LSU.
Yeah, there we go.
All the LSU fans are like screaming at me right now if they're listening. But I had his name, but for some reason it just escaped me. But anyway, so he's banged up. That's why he's not playing. Coach O has already said he's still our starter, and he's our guy, but he's just can't go right now. So they started Finley, but he had some struggles early on, and then they brought in Max Johnson. Who's a lefty, by the way. It's just odd watching somebody throw from that side of the ball. Jesse, you're used to it with Tua. But,
I was going to say, Tua did it.
So, so they brought him in to try to spark something. But, I mean, it was just, there's nothing they could do. They belonged to Auburn. And obviously things just went their way. 506
Back
yards.
To the turnovers.
Yeah, 506 yards for Auburn to 347. And then, like you said, 3 turnovers for LSU to Auburn's 1. That seemed to be, I mean, I don't know if that was the difference maker in this one. They may have won with 0 turnovers, on defense, but yeah, man, that just really helped out. So, Matt, I want to start with you this time. And what were your thoughts on this game and just this unexpected just a drubbing of LSU by Auburn.
Matt expected it.
Well, let's not get crazy now. I kind of expected
at least he said it was going to be close.
Huh? I mean, I knew it was
going to be close.
That's true. I did. I think I said what, 2 points? Was that what my
all
score
of us
was?
were within like 3 or 4? I think it was
because we thought they were equally bad.
Right.
Well, turns out they're not. I mean, Bo Nix looks like daggum. Cam Newton back there. I mean, look, if you add up his numbers, he had 381 of the total 506 yards of offense. That's outrageous. Like, and again, we've seen LSU's defense is a little suspect, so take that with a grain of salt. But how much of Jekyll and Hyde is Bo Nix? Like, it's 1 week, it's the definition of famine, and then the next week, it's the definition of feast, and there's no happy medium. It's constantly back and forth, which is mind-numbing when you think about it. Because if we run into that problem later in the year, say when they play Bama, or if somehow they manage to get into a bigger,
I'm fine with that problem.
situation, well, you better hope that it's an off day for him, because if it's a good day for him, he might be in trouble.
And we're always in trouble. I'm never
Just
comfortable.
Is it
You're
just
not supposed to be? It's the Iron Bowl.
Is it that he had a good day, or is LSU? Is it just one of those defenses that is like a confidence builder for people this year?
I honestly think that Nix has the tools. He just needs to develop. Because he's a sophomore this year, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a junior. Yeah, he's a sophomore. I think he's got the tools to be successful. It's just the question of, is he going to be able to execute like you want him to? And in this game, he did. Now, will he do that next week? Will he do it the week after? Well, that's completely up to them.
Right. Jesse, you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is this LSU team, for a team that was so amazing last season, and of course they lost so many starters, don't get me wrong, but you would think that the way they developed starters, they would be able to develop the talent they have now, and the talent saw those starters and learned under them, and surely got a little bit of playing time last season because they would get so far ahead of people. I'm just really surprised, and I don't know if Coach O is a one-hit wonder or what it is, but this LSU team is not playing like a defending national champion, which we knew. But they've always, even in off years and past seasons, they've always had a decent defense. Yeah, they just have. They've always, even when they had off years and they would play us, they would still put up a big fight. So this is just, I don't know, the juju's weird down in the bayou right now because things are not going their way. And then the problem with Auburn is they're too inconsistent.
Right.
You never know. It's like Matt said, you never know which Auburn team you're going to get. I think it goes past Bo Nix. They are so inconsistent. And I don't know if, again, that's a coaching thing, if it's, the players. I don't know where this inconsistency comes from because it is just such highs and lows. It's not like they won this game by a couple points. They lose by a couple points to some people. It's big deficit. So again, the Plains don't know what's going on there either, but never count them out because they have black magic.
Dare I say a box of chocolates? You never know what you're going to get. So, all right. So moving on to Ole Miss at Vanderbilt. Ole Miss winning big in this one, 54-21. Matt getting this one as well. And I didn't even write anything down for this one because it's just an old-fashioned butt whooping. I honestly, 645 total yards for Mississippi. Matt Corral, 31 of 34, 412 yards and 6 touchdowns, which I think is tied for the most touchdowns for an Ole Miss quarterback in a game, I think. Oh, wow. And I think Eli Manning tweeted at him after that and said, it took me 7 overtimes to get those 6 touchdowns as well. So, Matt did it in a regular game. So anyway, so yeah, not a whole lot on this one. Just gosh, Vanderbilt is bad. They're so bad. And will
we ever see a time when Vanderbilt is good?
Well, so
you got to go back in a time machine in 1912.
No, in our lifetime.
Oh, no chance.
No.
Absolutely not.
Now, okay, Kirby Smart's first season at Georgia, I was at the homecoming game with my son, and we lost that game. We lost homecoming to Vanderbilt, and it was all I could do to not say horrible words in front of my son. And fortunately, I didn't.
Hear the sentence you just said. We lost to Vanderbilt, not Vanderbilt beat us.
Yeah.
You guys lost.
Oh yeah, it was
wasn't Vanderbilt.
It was terrible. And it was homecoming. I mean, like homecoming is the one where you schedule, like an FCS school.
Vanderbilt. You schedule Vanderbilt.
So, I mean, but I just use that as an example. But you're right. It's been a long time since we've seen anything like Vanderbilt having a successful season.
3 turnovers though, Vanderbilt. I don't know how many times we have to say it. Stop turning over the ball.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead? Did you have anything else on this one, or just Ole Miss?
No, I mean it's exactly what we thought it would be. But I guess maybe I thought Vanderbilt might. I don't remember my score prediction, but I thought Ole Miss's defense was pretty bad. So I thought maybe Vandy could sneak up there more than 3 touchdowns. But they're still Vanderbilt, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Seals, their quarterback, I mean, he still threw for 319 yards. They just couldn't really. I mean, obviously
time of
he had to
possession
pick
was like this.
Yeah, split. Yeah. Matt, did you have any thoughts? You're smiling.
You're looking at Vanderbilt, kids, and this is what Ole Miss did to him right here. You see his big old gun, bam, blew him up. You can't mess with Ole Miss's offense. I don't care what you say right now, and you can say what you want about Lane Kiffin as a coach and as a man, and
we have.
And Jesse definitely has. But understand something. Lane Kiffin can coach an offense. Hands down. 645 yards of offense. Again, granted, Vanderbilt, but still very impressive. Now, if we could just get them a defense to go with that offense, Ole Miss could be something special. But
scary thought. In the offseason, Lane Kiffin goes out and makes Barry Odom an offer he can't refuse.
Ooh.
And Ole Miss has a defense next year.
Well, you'd have to wait a couple of years. It's got to.
Well, look at Arkansas.
I don't know.
That's true.
Well,
that's true.
Yes, but also look at Ole Miss right now. This is first year, and at least the offense is clicking. They weren't clicking before.
They turned around fast too.
Very fast.
They're explosive. They're exciting to watch. Man, if they had a defense to go along with that. And I think that goes, since he's such an offensive mind, I think that just goes down to if he got the right coordinator. And man, if he got the right D coordinator, that's scary to think about what they could be.
And they would have all the reins. I mean, he would give them all the reins. He's an offensive man. He's not going to try to muddle anything in the defense.
Exactly.
Guys,
they won't have to worry about anything.
I'm having some severe anxiety issues right now thinking about what could have been if he'd stayed at Tennessee and we could
and gotten a D coordinator.
Well, we had his dad. I mean,
well, that's true. Yeah.
Our defense that year wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure he's obviously learned over the years and honed his offensive skills as well. I don't remember him quite being the same touted offensive mind back then either.
No, but he's bold. He's gotten bolder.
True.
I mean, because
throw the ball downfield.
Absolutely, he'll call any play. You always have to expect him to call the most, off the wall thing.
Kind of reflects his personality. So.
Absolutely. And when it works, and you're like, he's a genius. When it doesn't work, you're like, what the hell are you doing?
Right. Exactly. Well, going from hopefulness in the state of Mississippi to depression, Mississippi State, the next game at Alabama. Jesse's happy, obviously, because they won 41-0. And I won the tiebreaker in this one with Matt. So stop shaking your head. So
no, I was just thinking in my head I should have saved the cat toy for this one, because that would be more applicable. But whatever.
I mean, if you have an explosive device, that would have been more appropriate, probably. But yeah. So I called it a bloodbath, and it was, and it started off that way, and it never ended. So Mac Jones, I mean, dude is slacking off. 291 yards. That's it. Is that as good as he can do? I'm just kidding. He threw for 4 touchdowns, and Devontae Smith 4 touchdowns caught as well for 203 yards. It seemed like every time I turned around, he was catching another touchdown. As a fan who doesn't really care, watching this game was pretty boring. Obviously, Jesse, I know you loved it. So, what do you got for us for this one?
I mean, you just look at the stat line. I think we all expected it to be a bloodbath. I did expect Mississippi State to score at least once whether that was a safety or a field goal. I expected something, but 0 is rough. It has not been a kind season thus far to Mike Leach. It was a very big flash in the pan against LSU, and we just saw LSU is not anything to, toot your horn about. But I mean, total yards, 499 for Alabama, only 200. My dog is so excited about Alabama. But only
just wants to get in on the show. That's all. It's all good.
She does. She's like, Mom, roll tide.
With a special guest appearance by Jesse's dog.
She hears people outside. That's why. But yes, roll tide, Piper. 200 yards by Mississippi State, not by one player. That was total.
Right.
That was Mac Jones had more yards as a player than the Mississippi State did.
And Devontae Smith had more receiving yards
and
the whole team.
Smith. Najee Harris almost as much rushing yards. Not great, people. Mississippi State turned the ball over 3 times, which I think, and I'd have to go back and look, but don't they have several turnovers in every game?
Yeah.
Thus far.
Yeah. They've really struggled in the turnover battle. I'd like to see, I'd have to look this up, what their collective turnover margin is on the year. I guarantee it's not good.
I would too. Yeah. I mean, Mac Jones is just lights out, guys. To all the Bama fans at the beginning of the season that were like, oh no, we have to rely on Mac Jones. Shame on you. Okay. For those of us that were like, it's going to be okay, we have Mac Jones. Thank you. This kid's the real deal. I'm excited, I think. And as I've seen this week on the Twitter and the other social media platforms, they are saying he's probably the front runner right now for Heisman. And I would agree 100%.
Yeah. Doesn't matter anyway, because the Heisman's garbage.
Oh, it's garbage.
I love how we always have that caveat. He's probably going to get it. Nobody cares.
I would like to see him in the Nissan Heisman House commercials.
Another Bama player in those commercials. That's just what we need.
Yeah. Mark Ingram.
Wait. Time out. Ain't I remembering correctly? And correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you say you were a little nervous about Mac Jones at the beginning of the year?
Not at the beginning of the year. At the end of last year, I was like, I'm nervous about Mac Jones. But then I was like, it's going to be okay. We still did okay. I got there.
I think those were legit fears, especially with what you saw last year. I mean, and that wasn't necessarily a fair evaluation, but you can only judge what you've seen. So.
It wasn't. And it's obviously hard to come in, as the backup to anybody, but coming as the backup to Tua Tagovailoa, like, not easy. And then, it's not like you're coming in under great circumstances. Like, you're coming in after a horrible injury. Right. And, you're just thrown to the wolves essentially. And last year our defense wasn't great. So we weren't setting anybody up for success really, but I'm excited to see what this kid can do. I think he is so talented. And of course he has the weapons surrounding him that everybody would want to have. I mean, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, come on. Jalen Waddle when he gets well again, but absolutely. Like it's good in Tide country.
But it's not just that. It's not just the players around him, though, I don't think, because he's putting the ball exactly where it needs to be. And it's
absolutely
crazy. He's crazy accurate. And I don't know if it's just the development over the course of, the season or whatever. But, I mean, it's just crazy. It's been insane to watch his evolution as a player. And I think
it's insane to watch the evolution of all Alabama quarterbacks in the past couple of years. I mean, you look at, we had like GMAC and AJ McCarron, and then you go into like Blake Sims and Jake Coker. We won a natty with Jake Coker. Let's just say that. Right. But you go into those guys, and then all of a sudden things start turning around. You get Jalen, you get Tua, and then now we have Mac. And so our offense is very different than it used to be. And we seem to be able to develop these guys who can pass like crazy, which is, I think, really encouraging.
He doesn't have the legs of Tua, but no. you might think I'm crazy, but I would almost rather take Mac Jones over Tua, because what I've seen so far this year is the dude puts, like, if I walked out there and placed the ball in the guy's hands, I couldn't have done it any better than the way he threw it. I mean, it's
100%.
just the ball's on the money almost every time. So it's super impressive. We'll see if he can sustain that kind of performance throughout the course of a whole season. But so far, been real impressive. What do you think, Matt?
It's Bama. Man.
Nah.
I mean, what else do you want me to say? Jesse said everything. Their offense clicks. Their defense is pretty solid. They throttled them. I mean, there's really not a lot else you can tell about how this game went down. I just feel really, really bad for Mike Leach. I feel awful, just awful.
No good press conference is coming anytime soon.
No,
it's not. And that's why we got him. That's why we got him. Let's be honest.
Well,
that's what we wanted.
That we thought he would turn Mississippi State into a contender. And at the very beginning of the season, we were convinced they were. But over the past 3 or 4 weeks, it's just been awful.
Well, Wes, I think you're about to get into it, and it doesn't look good.
I thought there would be an adjustment period, and obviously that's what we're seeing. But I saw a graphic that they flashed up during the game, and I had to go find it, the stats on it again. But it's not good in the locker room apparently at Mississippi State, because there's been a bunch of players who have entered the transfer portal now. And let me just list them here real briefly. We had junior wide receiver Tyrell Shavers, junior defensive end Trey Lawson, freshman defensive end Jamari Stewart, sophomore quarterback Garrett Schrader, who we've talked about on this show and some performances that he's had when called upon, sophomore quarterback Jalen Maiden, and then let's see, freshman offensive lineman Nick Pendley, and also senior running back Kareem Walker, all have entered the transfer portal. And then to cap it all off, running back Kylan Hill, who's basically their as far as I'm concerned, their star coming into the season. I know it's a different offense, not geared towards running backs, but from what we've seen from their players so far, he's opted out and he's getting prepared for the NFL draft now. So, I mean, you've just had a ton of people. It's like a mass exodus. And I saw an interview with Leach saying that this is normal for first-year coaches, and I'm kind of like, I'm not sure how normal this is. Maybe a little bit, maybe a few players, but
I could see 2, maybe 3.
I don't know if these kind of numbers are normal. And I thought it might take him a little bit to get him going, but man, we're gonna see how he's being tested right now. And like you said,
he's also like that funny guy. Like, he's super funny. But he's funny because he's odd. And we like it because we don't have to work with him or for him. And so, like, there's always that person you're like, dude, that guy's hilarious. And then people are like, yeah, but you don't have to work for him. Mm-hmm. And that might be the thing. Like, can you imagine him trying to explain a play to you or a scheme in some military style? And you're like, dude, just like, tell me what I need to do. Or
but it's
like,
not just
he tries
the
to give you
oddness.
life lessons. And you're like, this is not what I'm here for.
Right. Well, it's not just the oddness, though. I think it's also, I've heard this from, a few people, that he's kind of like a my way or the highway kind of guy, too. And it's kind of like, I mean, obviously it's his show now. And a lot of these players he didn't recruit. And so they're like, dude, I didn't sign up for this. So it would be.
I mean, it sucks for the players.
It would be nice if he could find some way, and I know he wants to establish the air raid right away, and he has tried to. It'd be nice to see some kind of interim thing going on right now until he can get the people there that he wants, or that can make that truly happen. I hope Mississippi State fans are patient, because I do think that he can be good. I don't know if that's going to work out in the SEC, if his vision is going to necessarily translate.
He's going to have to be more flexible one way or the other. I'm not saying completely give up on the air raid, but I think you need to be a little flexible, especially right now.
I think if you give him some time to develop some players, I think because he's been a winner everywhere he's gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, he turned Texas Tech into a program. He did some stuff with Washington State they hadn't done in a while. Or was it Washington? It was Washington. No, it was Washington State.
It was State.
Whichever Pac-12 team it was.
The Cougars.
So go Cougars. So I mean, he's a winner. He's proven that he can win football games. So I think if Mississippi State fans can be patient, give him enough time, give him an opportunity to develop players, bring in the kids he wants to play, I think he could turn Mississippi State into a contender. Now, will they win a national championship? Doubtful. Will they win the SEC? I don't know. But I think if you give him time, he'll be able to surprise some folks.
And let's be honest, this is a crazy season regardless. So you almost kind of just have to take everything with a grain of salt, it seems. So
it'll have an asterisk next to it regardless.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get to Mizzou at Florida, and our final game.
What about Arkansas at A&M?
Oh, you're right. I did skip over them, didn't I? Well,
yes, sir.
I can't skip over them. Arkansas. Thank you, Jesse, for keeping me accountable.
I almost didn't say anything because I'm like, it's Jimbo Fisher. But
oh gosh, I don't want to talk about him. Arkansas at number 8, Texas A&M. It really wasn't a game. The score is going to make it seem that way. It was 42-31. Matt did get the point in this one, but A&M was winning 28-14 at halftime. Never really looked back in this one. Arkansas got 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but I mean the game was done. By that point, like I said, that score makes it look a lot closer than it actually was. But kudos to A&M. I mean, they did what they needed to do. I think Arkansas, credit to them, they didn't just roll over, and they scored 31 points. I think we would have been impressed last year if they would have scored 20 points or 14 points against a number 8 team in the nation. So this is kind of one of those in-betweener games. I wasn't surprised at what happened necessarily, but kind of, kudos to Arkansas. Matt, I want to start with you this time. What were your thoughts on this one? I know you're a big Sam Pittman fan. So.
Really, I'm just like saying that.
It's just like saying that.
Really, because it's fun. Well, actually, Arkansas's turned into my kind of fun little thing I like to keep an eye on this season because deep down, I think that anytime you have a team that was in the bottom of the conference that gets that much better that quickly, it's exciting. And so we want Arkansas and Pittman to be successful. However, when you run into a top 10 team that's coached by Jimbo Fisher, you you run into a little.
I'm so glad you guys can see my face now when you talk about it.
Yeah, that's the best part. So like you said, A&M took care of business here. They looked like they were supposed to. They let them creep back into it there at the end. Not enough time, though. But again, I think Pittman should be commended for what he's done thus far. Arkansas looks leagues better than they looked last year.
Mm-hmm. Concur.
This game would have been like 3 points last year for Arkansas. I mean, some of this was, of course, scored in garbage time. But I think it's encouraging if you look at least the stats. And I know that after watching it, it's not as reflective of the game as it should be, but I mean, total yards, Arkansas was up there. They had more than Texas A&M. Time of possession, very close. First downs. So they're doing things right. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but I think Arkansas fans should be a little bit encouraged by this game, even though it is a loss.
Right. I mean, even look at Frank's 3 touchdowns on 239.
Yeah.
239 yards in the air. I mean, these are all things that I don't think we would have seen last year. We would just kind of seen them kind of roll over, which, no hate to Chad Morris, but I just don't think he was the guy. And it looks like Sam Pittman is. So at least for them. So, right. Let's go ahead and get to the final game this time, for real this time. Mizzou at number 10, Florida. Florida won this one 41-17. Matt got the point in this one. He had 1 point. He was 1 point closer in the differential than Jesse was. So it was missed it by that much. So.
If you listen closely, listen to that. If you listen closely, I'm right behind Wes at this point. So just so we're clear,
it's right there.
What's happening?
It's right there. So interesting start to this game. Early scare for Florida. Jarvis Ware has a pick 6 on Trask, and that was early in the second quarter. That made it 7-6. So I don't think we really thought it would be necessarily that close in the second quarter. However, not much after that. As far as Mizzou goes, it was all Florida after that. However, the most interesting part of this game was the end of the first half. Kyle Trask gets hit as he's releasing the ball at the end of the half. I think they're around midfield trying to do a heave to the end zone or what have you. And he got hit. Mullen kind of took issue with the hit, and he ran out onto the field, confronted Mizzou players, coaches, and the teams kind of got together there on the field. There was pushing, there was shoving, and then before you know it, there's people punching each other in the helmet, because that makes sense. And all that comes with that. Before you know it, it's an all out brawl. So
it was nasty.
It was really weird. And then did you guys see Mullen after that when he went into the locker room? He goes into the locker room real quick, and then he comes back out, and then he's like a pro wrestler. He's like trying to get the crowd into it and everything, and just whatever.
The term escalation comes to mind.
Escalation.
That whole situation could have been avoided if old Dan had just gone back to the sideline and then chilled out, because that whole thing got out of hand. Go ahead.
I mean, if he wants to yell at the ref, sure, every coach does that. But as a head coach, you set the tone for not only your staff, but for the players. Those players are already hotheads anyways. You are giving them, by acting out, you are giving them permission to act out as well. And of course they go out there and these guys aren't just pushing and shoving. If you haven't seen the clip, go watch it. They are throwing hands. I mean, and not just like, it's not a girly slap fight. They're throwing punches. And these are big dudes, and those punches have got to hurt. The poor refs are in the middle trying to break this up. I'm thankful none of them got clocked in the head, because it looked like it was getting close.
Oh, yeah.
Coaching staff, assistant coaches, trainers, whoever, are trying to break this up. And then you have an idiot head coach who's still instigating it. I understand you're looking out for your player, and you want to make sure your quarterback, who you think is a Heisman candidate quarterback, isn't getting hit late. He's okay. Let's address it with the referee. And if the ref doesn't call it, let's leave it at that. And you can grinch about it in your post-game press conference, or, when you're going into the locker room and you're talking to a reporter. But to act that way, I can't see a head coach. You shouldn't ever see a head coach do that. It's just gross. It's just super unprofessional. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good on our conference. Like, just do better, Dan Mullen. Your wife kisses the players in the mouth and you have a temper. Do better.
She brought it up.
Gross. You guys need help.
She went there.
Oh,
she went playing on that one, Wes. That fastball is a little high and tight.
That behavior is just not okay.
Well, Jess,
Cousin Eddie.
You and I were talking at the top of the show about how as a coach, you're the person who's supposed to be the de-escalator in those situations, not the person who
literally your job
escalates it. Not only did he pour gas on the fire, he basically started the fire with this one. So you can't do that. And then, as we saw, he did get some repercussions. He got a fine of $25,000 and issued a reprimand for violating, which I don't know what that means, a reprimand, whatever, for violating SEC bylaws during sportsmanship after a brawl erupted, blah, blah, blah. So SEC commish Greg Sankey had this to say. So there's no place in college football for the kind of incident that took place at halftime at the Florida Missouri game Saturday night. Everyone involved is responsible for meeting sportsmanship standards throughout the game, running on the field to confront a game official, the gathering teams, and an on-field confrontation, and student athletes throwing punches are all disappointing at any time, but even more so as we work to support healthy competition during a pandemic. So
I'm gonna laugh when
there was no social
coronavirus outbreak at Florida because they got close to the Mizzou players. I'm telling you.
To say, no social distancing going on there.
You could have also had your players get more or injured more during that confrontation than what happened on the field. He was fine.
Right.
I mean, it probably hurt, but like now you're risking other players, and now you have players suspended.
Yeah. Now, so it looks like
Mizzou?
It looks like it's kind of inconsequential for them. I looked at the players that they've got. No offense to those players, but as in terms of the effectiveness that they've had on the team so far this year, it doesn't look like they're gonna. The team is going to feel that much of an effect. Mizzou also had some suspensions, which ironically will also be against Georgia because they have a bye week, and then they play Georgia the following week. So
their players were swinging for the fences, though.
Well, they were probably ticked off. They were getting their heads caved in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then it was just like, well, they started it. Let's just go.
Can we also talk about the pointlessness of throwing punches in a football game? I mean, the people are wearing helmets. You're hurting your hand more than you're hurting the other guy's head. I've never understood.
It's like in baseball when they charge the mound. they take off their helmet when they're the batter, and then like for some reason the catcher also takes off his mask. I'm like, don't drop the bat, keep your helmet on.
Right.
It's a spirited thing, guys. It's a spirit. It's like, oh, you want to go? It's that whole deal.
It's the equivalent of taking off your earrings. I get it.
Yeah, I get it, but it's just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, going back to the whole coach thing, you know, we all know how emotional the game of football can be, and when you get caught up in the moment, you know, and to have a coach encourage that. I get that Mullen is very passionate about his team and his players, but you can't have stuff like that. So hopefully he kind of reins that in a little bit if we ever see anything like this in the future.
But here's the thing: is Jesse's right. I don't think he will. I think.
Oh yeah.
Dan Mullen's
$25,000.
Yeah.
His
buyouts, but whatever. He's shown he's a bit unhinged. We saw little sparks of it while he was at where was he before? Mississippi State.
Yeah,
Mississippi State, right? Ooh, had a brain fart. So we saw little sparks of it at Mississippi State, but I feel like since he's gotten in Gainesville, it's gotten worse. I don't know if it's the tap water down there or the heat. The very well might be the heat. But yes, thank you, Darth.
Did somebody say unhinged?
Something else. Oh, good God. He showed up in that
weird
that presser, and I'm like, Dan, what are you doing, dude?
I mean, I get it's Halloween, but it's weird.
It's weird. It's really weird.
The worst part about it is, okay, if he wants to show up in a costume, you know, cool. How, like you said, Jess, it's Halloween, whatever. In the spirit of the holiday, that's cool. But the thing is he sits down like that and starts to take questions and have serious conversation with these people. And I'm sure if I was a reporter in the room, I'd be looking around like, is this guy serious? Like, is this dude for real? I don't know. It's I was watching.
You ask a guy about a fight that he just started when he's wearing a Darth Vader mask. I don't know.
Now, look, obviously I'm a Georgia fan, and I'm going to say this anyway, but the word that came to mind was just clown. And I'm not trying to say that as somebody who just hates Florida, you know, even though I'm a Georgia fan and I'm supposed to. But when you have that kind of behavior, and then you back it up by putting on a costume and you know, fielding questions as Darth Vader, word like clown comes to mind. And I don't know.
I just think it's completely classless. Yeah. I think it is not respecting the institution you work for. I don't think it's respecting the conference. And I'm not just talking about like the Darth Vader thing. That's unprofessional. I love Halloween more than most people, but I can promise you Nick Saban would not come to a press conference. He wouldn't start an on-field fight like that. He wouldn't. There's no way that man starts an on-field fight like that.
Listen,
he might spank a player, but he doesn't do that. And Halloween is his birthday. He doesn't show up in a birthday hat. Come on.
I'm just imagining him in some sort of costume. And that just makes me laugh just even thinking about it, because he wouldn't do it. That's why it's funny.
I don't know what he would dress up as.
I'm trying so hard to wrap my brain around the idea of Nick Saban like having a good time. It just seems like it's not something like I could see Nick Saban sitting on a beach in a lounge chair, just looking, just that grimace on his face. I really should have won the Sugar Bowl in 2011. Like I don't think he's like Bill Belichick. Nothing makes a man happy.
They're best friends. Again,
they're the same person.
You know, every time that All-Star
where's my tinfoil hat? I'm gonna find it. Hold on a minute. It's running somewhere.
Every time that Allstate commercial comes on, I tell my wife, I say, you know, he's never smiled so much in his life. That is not realistic. Okay.
Oh, you mean Affleck?
Same difference.
Whatever. Some insurance. Yeah. Where he's got the recruits and he's showing them around
I just wanted
campus.
to make sure I hadn't missed a commercial. I was like,
yeah.
Oh,
no. Yeah. Sorry, Affleck. That's right. Cause he does give the duck a little fist bump at the end. So, but yeah, I turned to Jamie and I'm like, you know, he's never smiled that much in his life. This is not real.
I think he does when he's on his boat and when he's around his grandkids.
Jesse, come on. That man does not smile. No, I take that back. That man smiles when he's crushed his enemies and driven them before him and hears the lamentation of their cheerleaders. That's when that man smiles.
And I love that about him.
I was going to say, I think he's seen that many times, so he probably has had a few occasions to smile.
But none of you can say that he would start an on-field brawl like that. I don't think.
But he's got a bad hip. He couldn't do that anyway.
He's got a brand new hip.
It's great. But I don't even think Kirby Smart, as like unhinged as he gets, would do that.
I don't think so.
That needs to be our just for fun segment next week, Wes. Is who wins in which two SEC coaches do you want to see in a boxing match and who wins?
Okay, I thought you were gonna say what.
I was gonna say I can say it right now.
Oh man, yeah. Well, all right, cool. So we'll do that one. Boxing match between SEC coaches. So, all right.
We almost got one.
I was gonna say,
boy, we almost did, didn't we?
Drinkwitz.
It looked like Dan was
gonna
do. No.
Dan is unhinged, and we all know what we kind of think of Drinkwitz as kind of the nerd.
He's like truly becoming Cousin Eddie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can absolutely see Cousin Eddie out there on the field doing that.
I can see him charging someone in a bathrobe. Like Dan Mullen's probably done that.
Yeah, like Kyle Trask gets hit, and he's like, "Did you see that, Clark?" And then he just run out there.
Just wraps them up. Like
the kicker is the hit wasn't even like that hard nor that.
I didn't think it was either.
Like I get it, you want to protect your quarterback, but at the same time, it's like it wasn't that bad. Maybe it's just the heat of the moment kind of thing, but
yeah,
just go beat them after half. Which you did.
I was gonna say they definitely succeeded in beating them on the field after that. So
they did. They beat them multiple times.
I mean, it was bad. All right, so that does it for last week's games. Current pick'em standings: I have 13. Matt has 11. Jesse has 7. But as we saw, 1 week can make all the difference. So
I'm going rogue on y'all this week. I'm just going to pick everything you don't.
I was going to say, who knows?
Vanderbilt by 40.
Yeah.
Landslide. Yeah, maybe they get all the. Maybe you get all the points.
I've already put my picks in, so.
There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about just a couple of news items we have.
Here's the news.
All right, so the AP poll saw one additional SEC team. We all know what Matt thinks about the AP. So basically, we had the same 4 as we had last week. Number 2, Bama. Number 5, Georgia. Number 7, A&M. And then number 8, Florida. So SEC has half of the top 8. So that's pretty cool. But
Jesse and I both had the same reaction when we heard number 2, Bama.
Oh, yeah? No, I was talking about A&M.
Just saying. Oh, wow. I was looking at Bama because Clemson didn't exactly blow up Boston College. So
like I said, I don't know what it's going to take. And
but that was with a backup quarterback.
It's going to take
Trevor
Clemson
Lawrence had COVID, okay?
Yeah.
We still beat Boston College.
Right. We don't even need the offense out there. The defense.
You had better respect that man. He's going to be your head coach when Nick Saban leaves to go.
I know. Somewhere. I love Dabo Swinney. I do.
Seems like a cool dude.
I like him.
And then
not get crazy, Wes. Let's not get crazy.
I mean, I say that because he's in the ACC and I don't have to deal with him very much. So, but number 24, Auburn rounds out the SEC teams in the AP poll. So, I think it's pretty cool that SEC has 4 of the top 8. That's pretty cool.
There's also not many people playing right now. But
thankfully the Pac-12
it's not a decision, involved. It's a lack of options.
So 7 A&M, I don't know if I agree with that, but okay.
Well, and I don't mean to skip ahead here, but we talked about the playoffs and stuff. I almost want to play the Jim Mora playoffs. Anyway,
playoffs.
But we were talking about playoffs earlier in the year and how they're not going to change anything. It's going to be 4 teams. But it really seems like the stuff is still up in the air. I was listening to a podcast today where they're talking about how things should be altered because of just the insanity that's going on right now. We've just seen Wisconsin cancel a second game. And, the Big Ten was 8 games in 8 weeks. If you don't get in those 8 games, I mean, what happens? You got the Pac-12 playing 7 games. If you want to go back to, your perfect model of, 4 teams in the playoff next year, that's fine. But I think something needs to be changed this year. We're seeing the NFL change. Possibly they're considering, I don't know if you guys have seen this, NFL is considering changing it to 16 teams, which is like half the teams in the NFL.
Okay. So 50% of the people make the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, we saw baseball change it too, as far as playoff rounds goes. So it's just, as you said, an asterisk season. And I don't say that to mean it doesn't count. It's just there's special stuff going on all the time. Yeah. So so we'll see. I hope that they are at least have an open mind, because I wouldn't want to be, the person making that choice between the top 4. I would feel a lot more comfortable making a choice between the top 8 and letting them just fight it out instead of trying to make.
You only make more money. You have more games.
Absolutely.
Networks make more money. You guys make more money. I don't understand.
And we're losing games this year anyway, so you might as well add a couple. So anyway, speaking of playoffs, ESPN has their All-State playoff predictor. I don't know if you guys look at this during the week. I don't look at it a lot, but it was just kind of interesting to look at. But Bama right now, they have an 88.3% chance of making the playoff, and a 31.2% chance of winning the title. You know what? Next is I'm just talking about SEC teams here, but Georgia's next at 26.5% to make the playoff, 4.2% chance to win the title, and then Florida 4.3% chance to make the playoff, and then 0.3% chance to win the title. Of course, obviously a lot of that can change if they beat Georgia on Saturday, because if they go to the, obviously then they would likely be going and representing the East in the SEC championship. So I'm honestly not surprised by a lot of that stuff, by any of those stats, really. I mean, obviously we expected Bama to be way up there. Georgia is kind of one of those deals where they're up there, but they have a lot of work to do. But if they handle, the work that's been given to them, obviously I think those numbers work out. And then we can see Florida spike, obviously. I don't know. Have you guys looked at this playoff predictor before or had any thoughts on it?
I just don't think, I think we've seen it change so much in previous years that until we get closer, until they finally lock them in, I just don't pay much attention to it. Because I think you guys remember maybe, I think it was like 2018, like going into, it was 2017 season, but going into, 2018, when Bama snuck in there. The final day, we jumped somebody and snuck in there as the 4th spot.
I remember Ohio State. I remember, right?
It was. Yep. And it's like, you never know until they lock it in.
Didn't you take cupcakes to work the next day? Bama cupcakes or something like that? You celebrated somehow. Yeah.
I ran out of my house.
Those poor Ohio State fans had their hearts ripped out, and you're making cupcakes?
I ran out of my apartment in the middle of Chicago with my jersey on and my Alabama boots. And I met up with another alumni friend, and we just went and celebrated, and we were yelling down the street like Roll Tide. And then, yes, I brought Alabama cupcakes to work the next day.
Awful. Just awful.
Okay.
And your coworkers didn't care because it was cupcakes. So
yeah, they got free cupcakes.
By the by, can we take a minute to talk about if anything can connect to the last couple of days in the presidential election or 2016, it's proven one thing: you can't pick stuff to happen. It just happens.
I think people just like to have stuff to look at.
Yes, it's just it's so dumb. Just stop. Just.
I agree with you, but you know what? They have like entire teams dedicated to the numbers that I just read to you.
They are paying someone a crap ton of money to come up with these numbers that just magically appear out of it. Oh, Bama's 88% chance to get to the. No, shut up. Go find something else to do, bean counter.
How do you really
We have
feel?
Entire shows dedicated to this.
Sorry, I hate statistics.
Predictions.
And
we all watch them.
So
Not all of us, but like people watch them.
I actually love statistics. However, with stuff like this, no, I really do. But when you're talking about stuff like this, oh my gosh, it's so subjective because one little thing happens in the season, that 88% chance could go to like 30, or vice versa, depending on, who you're talking about. So, and we all know that
chaos theory,
and we all know
chaos theory.
That's it. But, we're all talking about, 18 to 22-year-olds who have very volatile personalities a lot of times. And, we're not just
who are riding dirt bikes late at night.
Exactly.
How are we back on this? Kid was having a good time, Jesse.
There's no fun in football.
None of this stuff is set in stone. And that's the interesting thing is you can plug in the numbers all you want, but it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a fun number to look at. So, All right, so we're actually introducing a new segment to the show tonight, and that is the opinion segment. And this one might actually get us into a little trouble here.
Sir, if I may venture an opinion.
I'm not really interested in your opinion, 3PO.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
So yeah, I think we're gonna have fun with this. So ESPN, I was listening to their podcast, and trust me, this is not a hate ESPN segment, because I listen to them all the time. We'll continue to listen to them all the time. Watch Game Day every week, blah blah blah. But we've talked about David Pollack on this show in the past few weeks, and you know, just kind of how he's made some controversial statements, and I've even kind of questioned, and I think all of us have, how much that he's kind of changed over the past few years in terms of how he's, you know, controversial in his statements, and just kind of, you know, I think, Matt, you said he was a little bit of a tool bag.
Say it. Like, thank you.
He's a little bit of a tool bag. So
just a hair.
Yeah. So I was listening to the podcast today, and he admits, or at least that he was talking to their producer, and that their job is to get headlines and to get clicks. And so so he said that, and I was like, oh my gosh, we just talked about this, and that I wonder if they're, you know, doing all this on purpose to just try to get headlines. Well, I didn't even need to ask the question, because he said it, and they're just admitting it on this podcast. It's not like they're trying to hide it, right? So let me throw in one other thing here, and then we can kind of talk about both of these things. So next in the same show, within just a couple of minutes, Herb Street comes in and admits that he pulls for Michigan in the Big Ten. I mean, not them specifically, but they were talking about Michigan. He was like, yeah, I pull for Michigan in the Big Ten because it would be, quote unquote, good for college football and would help the sport for blue bloods to be doing well. And we've talked about branding and how everybody loves certain, you know, schools, and based on logos and history and nostalgia and blah, blah, blah. Don't get me wrong. I love nostalgia. I think it's great. I think the history of the sport is cool. But I think once we start getting into stuff like that, I mean, that's kind of dangerous. And they're admitting on a show that they're more concerned about the ratings and you know, people tuning in because they're watching Blue Bloods than they are about, you know, the sport itself and these teams. And in my own mind, I'm thinking, well, is that necessarily true? Because let's take a look. If you've got some teams that are lesser known teams, and they're finally working themselves into the national spotlight, are they not going to bring their fan base with them? Does that not help your ratings as well? Is it just the Blue Bloods that are going to help you out? I don't know, Jesse. I want to start with you, because you're rolling your eyes at what they're saying.
There's so many feelings. First, I'll start with
wait. I want a snack for this. All right, go ahead.
Those are yummy. But I mentioned last week how I didn't appreciate David Pollack's statements, and I thought they were just not founded in any facts. And I know half of what I say is not founded in facts. I don't have facts to hate Jimbo Fisher. I just do. But the thing is, as someone who worked in this industry, as someone who did reporting, who has a degree in this, I think you get yourself close to some trouble when you start doing this and admitting that your job is to get clicks and headlines. I get it. I mean, that's everyone's job, is to, like, you know, in that industry, is to do that. However, I think your job is also to, number one, it's to report fact. That is quite literally your job, is to report exactly what's happening, and be based in truth and well-researched facts. I think the other thing is, and this is something that people look to ESPN for, they look for your expert opinion. So if you don't truly believe that that's the case, why say it? You know, say something else. You can say, I think a headline saying Bama's still okay despite, you know, Waddle being out is still a headline that a Bama fan's going to read anyways, or other fans are going to read, because they're like, hold up, didn't they lose somebody? They're still going to click that. I just think you get into something that gets close to yellow journalism. And I think especially it's something where we see it in, you know, news media. And if we start to see it in sports media, like, when can we trust our journalists? And so I think we also have this really cool opportunity when you hear stuff like that. And if it does make you feel a little weird, go look into it and see, make an opinion for yourself. And then we're in such a cool age where people have the technology and opportunity, just like we do, to create your own content. So I think places like ESPN should start to not get worried, but just check yourself a little bit, because people can make their own content. So if you start saying these things and you don't become, or you don't maintain yourself as a trusted outlet in sports, I just think it's a slippery slope. This is one instance and it's not a big deal. But it always starts with not a big deal, and then you start to go down. That's my first thing. I don't respect journalism like that. Now, David Pollack does not have a degree in journalism. David Pollack and a lot of the people on ESPN are former athletes, so their analysis is great. But I would remind them that there are very people that study journalism and broadcasting have should at least have been taught these ethics and kind of a code of conduct. So I would remind you that you may have a job to get headlines and clicks, but your job is also to report fact and report your opinion that you truly believe in. Second, Herb Street, you know exactly what I think, because I'm thinking not even just about Michigan. I'm thinking Notre Dame here. All right, you guys, I think I went on the record a lot talking trash about UCF. But now hearing Herb Street say this, I get why they had to make so much publicity on their own, because this is happening. I would be frustrated too if I was a smaller school and I was starting to make a little bit of a rumble and they were still like, you know what, this like really trashy Michigan team, put those guys on. Because no, just because they were good in the 1920s, yeah, the people that watched them in the 1920s, they're not here anymore. They died. That's what I have to say. I'm done.
Now, you know who's not angry about the Pollock comments is Nick Saban, because I guarantee you that fired up his players. As soon as Pollock said they're done, oh man, if I'm him, I'm like printing that out and I'm putting it all over the locker room. Poison. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's, if anything, it's a motivator. So
and I don't have the issue as much from a Bama fan perspective. Like, that's annoying, but I think my issue just comes from like a journalism perspective. Sure. That's just not your job. Well, I mean, that shouldn't be your job.
The fact that he's even admitting, openly on the podcast that my job is to get headlines and clicks, and I think to your point.
Are you the Daily Mail?
Well, to your point, talking about how there's so many people who can create content now. I mean, I think to a certain extent, ESPN is just like we were saying, they're just trying to get clicks because of all the competition. Like maybe if I can just create some controversial headline, people will click on me instead.
And they might. And even when I was working with the Big Ten as my client, yes, I did that.
I'm so
only
sorry.
non-Big Ten grad to
blood money.
That's right.
But we ran their social media, and they told us, they're like, we don't report on the Big Ten conference social media. We don't necessarily report score updates and things like that, because people are going to go to ESPN for that. That's just naturally where people go. We're going to report, academic stories, off the field stories, things like that, like those feel good stories, because people are going to look more to us for that than they are for scores. So ESPN, like, people are putting you in a lane, and I guess you want to get those headlines and clicks, but I don't think, and I'm using outlandish very loosely, but I don't think like, those clickable clickbait headlines are the way to necessarily build your credibility to where people want to read your opinion.
Yeah. Matt, I know you have some thoughts on this, and obviously we've kind of talked about the wrestling world, and to me, it's almost like they're trying to create personas in this day, and it's almost like I don't know if Pollock's supposed to be the heel or what, but it's like they're creating this show. Is
that a wrestling person?
Yes. Yeah, it's the bad guy.
It's the bad guy.
Oh, so, gotcha.
Okay.
Get with the program here, Jesse.
I know Hulk Hogan.
I'll have to tell Nick Lamb at the Lamb Show to tune into this one. You can catch that reference at least. But yeah, so, I mean, what are your thoughts? I'm sure you got some on this.
Well, I can tell you right now, the fact I looked it up. David Pollack has a degree in history, so there's that. Two, the fact that Jesse brought up the term yellow journalism, which is old, makes the cockles of my heart warm. Thirdly, I think she's spot on. I think this is a problem that we see across all media, whether that's sports, news, whether that's fashion, whether that's anywhere.
Kardashians.
It's no, God, please don't bring them up. Trying to keep my blood pressure down tonight. If you start talking about the Kardashians, it's going to go up. It's one of those situations where you're getting rid of your credibility, but when you're saying that your entire purpose is to just generate traffic. Could you imagine Walter Cronkite coming out and saying, "Oh, I'm just reporting the news just for clicks"? Like that's such an obscene thought. I'm trying to think of the concept of somebody like that doing such a base thing, trying to get that across of I'm just trying to get clicks. I don't know. And I think you're right, Wes. I think he was playing up the heel persona a little bit, and I think that's what they do. Gary Danielson does it every week on CBS at 3:30 because he loves playing the heel.
Right.
Jackass. Anyway, sorry.
The word.
But understand that's and I understand from a business perspective. Okay, you get traffic, you want to make some noise, you want people going to your stuff because advertisers are going to want to see that. But at the same time, you almost have a duty to make sure that you're not trying to spin stuff. And this is a problem we've had for a long time in the media, top to bottom. And how do you get rid of it? I don't know how you get rid of it. All I know is what it looks like. If it looks like a dog, it barks like a dog. By God, it's a dog. Well, sure enough, this looks and smells like bad journalism, and that's what it is. And Herbie going into, and I won't begrudge Herbie. I've always liked Herb Street, but Herbie getting into it and saying that and maybe he didn't mean it like we took it, but when you say it's good for the sport when the blue bloods are on top, it's cyclical. We've talked about that. We've said, you can only have so many people at the top for so long before somebody else is going to have to come along and start to be at the top of the food chain. It's just, that concept just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, okay, you want Michigan to be good, that's fine. But you don't need to do it at the expense of every other team in the Big Ten. And you don't need to do it at the expense of other conferences as well. And I say that when we have a podcast about one of the most successful conferences in the nation, but still it's just irresponsible, I think. And it's sports. It's really in the grand scheme of things not that important, but they do have a duty to call stuff down the middle. And they do have a duty to not have an agenda when they're, doing their programming and all that.
Right. And I'm like you, I really don't have a problem with Herb Street. If anything, he's kind of come to the defense of Georgia a lot of times. So, and just personally listening to him, I haven't really had an issue. But this one in particular, this specific one rubbed me the wrong way. When you start talking about stuff like that, where it's good for the sport, I mean, you have to, recognize at some point that the blue bloods, there's going to be new ones. You're not going to have the same ones from here till forever, right? At some point, it makes sense. It's logical that someone else is going to rise to the top, and we have to be okay with that.
People start watching then, because when the team, and I'm saying this as a Bama fan, people hate Bama. Mm-hmm. People from other conferences, people that don't have rivalries with them, people that don't even watch football hate Bama because they're tired of seeing them win. So when someone beats Bama, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to watch that team." They get excited because they get bored of something else, and I don't get bored, but that's what happens. People then start getting more engaged, I think, with the sport because it's not as, again, using this term very loosely, monotonous for them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's what we're here for, is to keep ESPN accountable. So you're welcome. So let's go ahead and get into the games of next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right. So first we have coming up number 8, Florida at 3-1 against number 5, Georgia at 4-1. And that is the 3:30 kickoff on CBS. That's actually the first SEC game on this week. We only got 4 games. Yeah, 4 SEC games coming up. So, and that is at TIAA Bank Field at Jacksonville, Florida. as always.
Wes, let me interrupt you. Call this game what it is, please.
The world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Thank you. You can.
It will be. It doesn't matter, PC or not. That's what it's going to be known as. So
also, it doesn't matter coronavirus or not.
True. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you get enough alcohol in your system, it ain't going to get you. So
everyone knows vodka's the cure. It's fine.
That's right. So it's just kind of that.
I'm pretty sure the freshmen still drink like pink lemonade vodka or like whipped cream.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there a few years ago, and they were just like throwing out Jello shots and stuff. So there's that too. So name your poison. So honestly, I'm a little nervous about.
You're always nervous about this game, Wes.
I think I have good reason to be. Okay,
we've been doing this show for 3 years. You're always nervous about this.
Hold on. Hear me out. So obviously, we've had some concerns on offense. And the defense, which has been our anchor all season, we got 4 guys who are either not going to be playing on the defense or are questionable, or who will be in, and we don't know how effective they'll be. So I see the defense maybe suffering a little bit. I don't think a lot, but I think we might see a few of those breakout plays. I think you might see Florida put up, 1 or 2 explosive plays, maybe for a touchdown, stretch the field on us. And much the same way you saw Alabama do it. So I could see that happening. Now let's be real here. Florida's defense isn't, the best either. I think we're going to have our chances, especially if, Pickens is back, which I think Kirby's playing that one a little close to the vest. I don't know if we really know if he's going to be available or not. At least I haven't seen anything yet as we're recording on Wednesday. But we'll have to wait and see what his condition is. So anyway, I say all that to say I do have concerns. I am going to go with Georgia winning this one, but I think it's a tight one. I'm going 28-24. Jesse?
I'm going to go against the grain here.
Here we go.
I'm not just doing this to try to get more points. I am picking this because I actually think this will happen. I think it's gonna be close, but I have concerns for Georgia. I think you've listed several, and I was not impressed with how they handled Kentucky. Now, again, Florida's defense not where it should be. However, I think they know what they need to do, and this is a very emotionally charged rivalry game. So I'm actually going to pick the Gators in a close one. I think it's Gators 31-24.
That hurt a little bit, didn't it, Wes?
Sorry.
It did. It's realistic. I can see
if
that
it makes you feel any better, I hate you both.
It's like was that episode of The Office where he keeps asking Dwight numbers, and he's like, I can see that happening. Yeah, that's a possibility. It's basically what my reaction to your score there. So, Matt, what you got?
I think, therefore I am. That was a classical reference. That was a deep cut. You didn't expect that on a football podcast.
We're cultured here.
Yeah, I know we are. Highly. Let me get my Earl Grey tea hot. Another reference. It's just ticking them off. I think that the game against Kentucky was indicative of Georgia overlooking Kentucky.
Okay.
I think maybe Georgia was already thinking ahead to looking at Florida. I think they kind of napped on Kentucky a little bit. And Kentucky's a decent team. You couldn't do that. They almost got caught, but they got away with it. I've not been sold on Florida in any stretch of the imagination. Can they put up points? Yes. Will they be able to put up points against a quality defense? I don't think so. I think UGA is going to be able to move. I don't know if they're going to keep it on the ground. Like, Florida's defense has just not impressed me. They have not. So I think that Florida is going to struggle here. I think they get a late touchdown to make it look closer than it is, but I'm going to say Georgia wins this thing 28-14.
I would just like to say that if Georgia holds Florida to 14 points, I will be ecstatic, because
and I think it's
potent offense.
I think it's possible. I think you get a little bit of momentum early in the game. I think they'll roll over. Now, I could be wrong. We could be looking at 52-14 Florida for all we know. Who knows? But
right.
That's just the gut feeling I've got that Florida's not going to be able to hang.
Right. All right, so let's jump to the next one. That was Vanderbilt at 0-4 versus Mississippi State at 1-4. That's a 3:30 kickoff on SEC Network. I heard some people saying that, you're having a bad season. The cure is to play Vandy. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe it's the inverse or converse or however you want to say it. Maybe it's Vandy that's going to benefit from playing the Bulldogs. We'll see. But I have Mississippi State winning this one. I think that they're going to be able to do a little bit more of what they have been wanting to do on offense. And I'm going to go with them winning 31-14 Mississippi State. Jesse?
Not so fast, my friend.
Ooh, there it is.
Pulled that card.
I would venture to say, and I could be wrong, but I would venture to say that I think Mississippi State might be worse than Vandy.
Oh,
that is a low blow.
Oh, that is a hot take. A steaming hot take. Wow,
Super
Jesse,
hot take.
Do you have facts to back up that claim?
I don't think that Vanderbilt would have only scored a safety. I think they would have probably at least gotten a field goal. I don't know. I think the point differential for Vandy has been a little more encouraging than it has been for Mississippi State. Now, could be wrong, but I'm going to pick Vandy in this one. I think it's close. I think it's really close because I think they're pretty evenly matched, despite the fact that Vandy hasn't won it all. But I think Derek Mason finds a way to pull this out, and Vandy wins 24-17.
All right.
Hot takes here all day.
Bold move, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for Matt.
Do you see as soon as Jesse made that call, she's like, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm out.
I made my call.
I'm losing by so much. It doesn't matter at this point.
I
love that you're saying it doesn't matter and the season's like half over. We got so much left.
I could win so much next week.
You could.
Yeah, you totally. I mean, look at the ground I made up this week. I mean,
That's fair.
Like 1 or 2 behind each other last week, and now I'm right behind Wes's backside. Anyway,
it's really awkward.
Well, it's only awkward if you make it off with that, big boy. Anyhow, it's 9 o'clock. We've come off the rails. Okay.
Yep.
So Vanderbilt's not going to be able to hang in this one. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. We've been a little suspicious of Mike Leach's offense and defense. Mississippi State has not looked good except for that first game against LSU, and that was kind of suspect to begin with. However, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here. I'm going to say Mississippi State wins this thing 21-10.
All right. In the third game of the day, we've got number 7 Texas A&M at 4-1, at South Carolina at 2-3. That's 7 o'clock on ESPN. This one was kind of tough to call. I think both of these teams are going to score some points. But in the end, I think A&M is just able to do what they need to do to score just a few more, and maybe South Carolina throws a late pick to kind of, I don't want to say squander the game, but just put it out of reach. I'm going to say A&M wins this one 35-24. Jesse?
I agree. I think both teams will put up some points. I think in the second half, Texas A&M will start to pull away from Carolina a little bit. So I'm picking Texas A&M 35-21.
All right. Matt, what you got?
Jesse doesn't have enough faith in Jimbo Fisher's offense. I'm giving them a little bit more credit here than she is. So I'm going to say Texas A&M pulls away in the fourth quarter, makes it a bigger margin of victory, call it 42-21 A&M.
All right. All righty. Next, we have Tennessee at 2-3, at Arkansas at 2-3, 7:30 on SEC Network.
Yeah. Just go ahead, Wes. Just do it.
I think as a fan who has not a dog in this fight, I think this is going to be a really entertaining game. I think we're going to see both of these teams just go at it. I think we're going to see some good stuff from Sam Pittman and his team. I think he's going to get them ready to go. At the same token, I think Tennessee is going to be able to handle what they need to. I have Tennessee winning this one 27-24 in a nail biter. Jesse?
Yeah, I think this one is going to be a really good game to watch. I think both of these teams are very similar as far as their caliber. I mean, they have the same record. And that's not always indicative, but I think Arkansas is, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps right now. So I am going to pick Tennessee, but I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's 28-21.
All right. Matt, what do you have for your balls?
Y'all are really cheery here. Here's the picture.
What?
There are going to be a minimum of 4 turnovers in this game.
Okay.
I have a sneaking suspicion that offenses on both sides will not be able to do a whole lot. I think this game's not going to be pretty. That's just a feeling I've got. And I've got a bad feeling about it. And my guess is Tennessee's going to win, but I've also got a really bad feeling about it because it's 2020. Why would good things happen? So, and to be completely frank with you, this would be the way it would go. This is the way, to quote the Mandalorian. So I'm picking Tennessee here, but it's a very, very, very suspicious pick. I would love to have more confidence in my boys. I just don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll see. So I'm being optimistic somewhat and picking Tennessee to win this thing 20-10. Guarantano throws 2 picks.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it's going to.
He is starting, by the way.
He is starting. Okay.
They came out this afternoon. I also want to point out, Wes, made that call.
That Matt does not get extra points if he calls the amount of turnovers correctly.
Oh, wait a minute now. Hold on. That's a side bet. Okay, it's a side bet. That's if it hits, then I get at least a bonus point. Come on, that's got to be worth a bonus point.
You get 2 picks?
Yeah.
All right, Jesse, do you agree to that?
4 turnovers.
4 turnovers with 2 picks by Guarantano.
All right, so
oh, come on now. Now you're making okay, fine. That's fine. That's fine with me.
All right, so the terms here, just so we all understand, is 4 turnovers total in the game by either team. Is collectively
4 turnovers.
Right.
Yeah.
And 2 of them will be picks by Guarantano. Okay. All right. So just so we understand each other.
If you're watching this, Jeremy, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you have to do it now.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I feel like sometimes our whole show is just for fun. I have a lot of fun anyway, but we come to our just for fun segment. And since we're in the presidential theme and the election is, on everybody's minds, the question this week is, which coach duo would you vote president and vice president? And really curious to see the answers that we get to this. So hail to the chief. Jesse, who do you have?
I think we all know my commander-in-chief is Nick Saban. So that should come as no surprise. He was asked today in his press conference if he had any political aspirations after Tommy Tuberville got his Senate seat. So he said no, but Nick Saban would be my president. And for VP, I'm picking Derek Mason.
Oh, you stole one.
I say that because he's very intimidating, and you need that person in Congress to start talk to the whip, start getting you some votes, just be your man, be your muscle. I think Derek Mason's the muscle.
Okay, go with that. Matt, what do you got?
I don't know. When I was thinking about this question, I was kind of channeling the movie Idiocracy. I don't know if y'all have seen that. But I just had this picture of like this alternate universe United States where everything's kind of screwy, and Dan Mullen's the president.
Oh God!
And he's doing State of the Union addresses in costumes, and wanting to fight like foreign leaders, like yes, just like that. And so his vice president would be Drinkwitz, because they don't get along. And it only makes sense because this is weird alto United States where nothing makes sense and everything's upside down.
That's terrifying.
Okay. I went with.
Don't like that.
I forgot to add that. Oh crap! Just had a brain fart. Muschamp is the Secretary of Defense, so there's that.
Okay.
Oh, so I was going to pick Mike Leach as my Secretary of Defense.
Okay.
He's Secretary of Education.
Well, it's funny you should mention him because if I'm going with sheer entertainment factor of the President of the United States, I would go with Mike Leach, and also because history, and he knows all that stuff. So I feel like he would make some good decisions. Although, as we've discussed, he's a bit odd. So maybe you could throw that out the window. I don't know. And then for VP, I was going to go with Will Muschamp because I think we've all determined that he is best when he's just a coordinator, not a head coach. So anyway,
wait, hold on. Can we park on that for a minute? Because I love that.
So perfect.
That's great. The same thing could be said about a certain head coach in Athens. Anyway.
Disagree.
Lane Kiffin. It goes on and on.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Nick Saban's my daddy.
I was gonna, Anyway, all right. Is that all we got for this show? I think it is. Yeah, that's all we got.
Wrap it up, Wes.
Cool.
We have to go to bed.
All right. So yes, we appreciate you guys listening to our show. We would greatly appreciate it if you would take a moment and leave us a review, hit subscribe. We would love that. If you'd like to hit us up on the email, check us out at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. Hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/pigskinsandpageantry. Twitter, we got PPSEC Podcast. On Instagram, you can hit us up at Pigskins and Pageantry. Don't forget, we are available for download on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. And obviously, we are on YouTube now. We would love it if you guys would check us out and you get the added bonus of seeing our wonderful faces. So appreciate that. And until next time, guys, have a great week and go Dogs.
Y'all, roll tide as always. We're on a bye week this week, so rest up before we take on those Tigers. Roll tide.
Guys, it's a weird world out there. Buckle up. It's going to be a good ride. Go Vols. Beat the Hogs.